What's up, everybody? Welcome to Beyond the Game podcast. I'm your host, Terry.
I'm your host, Trey. We're officially 6 days away from some college football.
Yes, we are. Thank God. Can't wait. So, we're going to discuss the college football season, 2025 college football season that's coming up this year. We're going to talk a little bit about the Power Five conferences, a little bit about the Group of Five conferences, and we're going to go over the AP Top 25. So we're going to start with the lonely Pac-12. Obviously, everybody knows that the Pac-12 pretty much got gutted a couple of years ago, with several teams leaving to go to other conferences. Right now, they've got Oregon State and Washington State still hanging on. It looks like, though, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. The Pac-12 has added a few teams for the 2026 football season. Those teams being Boise State, which will be moving over from the Mountain West, Colorado State from the Mountain West as well. Fresno State will also be moving over, coming from the Mountain West. Gonzaga is adding their football into the Pac-12. Then obviously Oregon State and Washington State, and then San Diego State and Utah State are also coming over. So it looks like the Pac-12 will be picking up a little bit for the 2026 football season, and that should make some things a little interesting.
That Boise State move is going to be huge.
That Boise State
I,
move is going to be
I
huge.
think it's going to help them with the recruiting for this off rip. And then, two, just bowl season, man.
Boise State has been needing to go to a Power Five conference for years now. I mean, they've been dominating Mountain West Conference play. They've been dominating Group of Five. They've been in the college football playoffs from time to time. I mean, they've had some upset games where they've knocked people out. So I think it's a good move for them to get into a Power Five conference. Fresno State also is not a they're not a pushover team. They've had good teams over the last couple of years. So it's going to be good for them. And I'm glad to see the Pac-12 coming back. So
Realistically, Genty probably wins Heisman if they're in a bigger conference.
I
Just facing some better defenses,
yeah,
putting up those numbers. He did it against Oregon,
yeah,
but
he had
they
over
just didn't play enough.
over 2,000 yards rushing last year. Which is a feat in college football nowadays. I mean, most you don't get too many running backs, running for more than maybe 1,000, 1,200 yards. So now, I mean, just what he did last year alone. If he had been in a Power Five conference with a Power Five school, he would have won the Heisman, no doubt. Nothing against Travis Hunter by no means. I mean, he was a great football player. He played both offense and defense. I mean, he's an athlete. Great
This
kid.
the Heisman every year kind of turns into a clout deal.
It does.
Who's got the most clout at Heisman time is
Yep.
normally who wins it. You can
Yeah.
almost guess it. Johnny Manziel won it as a freshman.
Yep. I agree. And Heisman is something that's always just debated. You know,
You feel about that?
so I watched him play a little bit last year, obviously with Texas, their first year in the SEC. Um, you know, Texas is Texas. It's a great football program. It's always been a great football program. And he's got the name. I mean, Manning. Let's face it. Uh, Great. I mean, his dad, uncle, grandfather. They come from a sports family. I mean, his entire family are athletes. And what I saw with him last year, uh, he's a beast. He's an athlete. He's going to do really well at Texas. But is he going to win the Heisman this year? I I don't know. And the reason I say that is because there's a couple other quarterbacks out there that are going to be playing good this year. Just off the top of my head, DJ Lagway from Florida. I think he's got a pretty good chance of competing for the Heisman this year.
Possibly injury prone.
If they can keep him healthy, yeah, and we'll talk a little bit about Florida here in a little bit. We'll also get into Texas a little bit more. And there's other athletes out there that we're going to talk about over the next couple of weeks and over the course of the football season as the season gets started and we get halfway through the season and toward the end. People are they're gonna be added to the list. They're gonna drop from the list. But
You always have your dark horse that comes
You
in
do.
about halfway in the season.
You do, yeah, and and I'm sure there's going to be a few of those guys out there that we're going to be talking about on a consistent basis more as we move through as the football season continues. So we'll see how it goes, But I mean, I think Texas is going to be a contender this year, and I think it's one of the things that most people are going to have to understand. Their move to the SEC was probably a good move. I know a lot of people didn't like that, but I mean, it made the SEC conference better, made it stronger. And when we get into these rankings later on, you're going to see that right now the SEC has the most ranked teams in college football right now.
What is it? Eight games a year is basically a playoff game.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, I mean, especially in the SEC, and then I'll go ahead and throw it out there, the Big Ten. The Big Ten's come on strong the last couple of years with the addition of the teams that the Big 12 added. There's going to be some playoff contenders coming from there. The ACC, everybody's talking about Clemson. There's some talk about Clemson saying they're going to go undefeated this year. But yeah, we'll see. We'll touch on that in a few minutes as well. I know Coach Sweeney has said something about he feels like this year is going to be their year, and that there's not a team in the ACC that's going to beat them. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
The best part is we get to talk about all of them at zero snaps.
That's good. Yes.
So, with all that in mind, you ready to get into some Big 12 action?
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about Big 12. So they've got five ranked teams for this year. I'm sorry, four ranked teams. Arizona State is ranked number 11. Of course, everybody knows what Arizona State did last year. They had a great football season for them. Their running back, Scattaboo, I cannot talk enough about what they did. I mean, overall, 11-3, made it to the playoffs. Um,
Nearly beat Texas.
Nearly beat Texas.
Within what? A field goal?
Yeah, it was a close game. I'd have to go back and look at the what the final score was, but it was. I remember watching that game. That kid. I mean, that entire team. It wasn't just him. I mean, it was the whole team. They literally left everything on the field. Um, they are replacing some people this year. I guess it's really going to depend on
They do have 16 returning starters for this year.
16.
16.
That's awesome.
So on
That's
top of Arizona State though, it's kind of like the SEC where they just basically bang it out all year, and by the time playoffs comes around, who you have is who you have. Um, as you just said, they have four ranked teams, including Iowa State, Kansas State, Texas Tech. I've actually read into Texas Tech a little bit, and I'm kind of falling for the hype as of right now, so to speak. I think they're going to be really good. I could see them possibly winning the Big 12, if not getting a bye into the college football playoffs.
and I'm excited about Texas Tech. I remember when Mike Leach, rest in peace, Coach Leach, back in the day when he was at Texas Tech and all the fun that they had down there. I'm a Texas Tech fan. I always have been. And it's going to be exciting to see them coming back this year and having a pretty good football team and probably giving some people some headaches over in the Big 12.
I
Um,
see not really a dark horse. They've kind of been around on the up for the past 2 years. Colorado Buffaloes with Deion Sanders.
co-
I think they're going to have some pretty good quarterback play this year. I know they just got a freshman commit out of Carrollton, Georgia this year. He actually looks pretty good.
mhm.
His highlight reels for high school were outstanding. I got the chance to watch him play our local school here in East Coweta.
Yeah, Colorado, with Coach Sanders taking over there, not only did he bring a lot of football experience, but in the way that Coach Sanders does, he brings the hype. and
Oh yeah,
and I'm telling you, man, and a lot of people jumped on that train early and quick last year, and it was a good train to be on. They had a good season last year. Some things, college football it's an ever changing and ever evolving sport, and they had some things go their way, and then they didn't, and they had some things that didn't go their way. But I mean, overall, they were 9-4. So I mean, and a lot of people, there was a lot of people out there that said they were going to do worse than that. They had them winning five, six, some maybe even close to 7 games, and that was it. But they did really well last year. They had some athletes on that team last year. Obviously, we talked about Travis Hunter a little bit earlier. Heisman winner last year. Great kid, great athlete. Um, Coach Sanders' two boys were on that team, Shadur and Shiloh, playing good ball. So it's going to be interesting to see. I think it's going to be a little bit of a rebuild year for them. But I know if anybody can get them ready for this year, it's going to be Coach Sanders.
I think your quarterback play out of Colorado is going to be better than it was last year. From what I've seen, their starting QB can sling a football. Um, it's kind of how it was when he came in Alabama. He just walked in and shocked everybody.
Right, right. Yep.
Obviously, he hasn't translated to the NFL as well with the injuries. Um, everyone kind of says he has a weak arm. It's hard to hit Tyreek Hill 60 yards down the field, but I think there's only a special group of people that can hit a player that's that fast downfield.
I agree. Yes. Yeah, you get a player like Tyreek Hill and you put him on the football field, there it takes a special type of quarterback and for them to have a special type of relationship in order to get the production out that you want to get out of those players. 100%. Um, so staying with the Big 12, Kansas State is ranked number 17 this year. Um, Kansas State every year they play good ball. Offense is good, defense is good. Most of the time they're noted for their defense. I think an issue with them is they have a hard time winning some of the big games to get them over that hump.
hmm
I mean they
I,
I mean
I
la
think the most credible win they have of late is nearly knocking TCU out of the team before to make the playoffs a few years ago when Georgia ended up beating TCU in the national championship.
right, yeah.
Outside of that, you just don't really see them winning the games that they should.
I mean,
And a couple of college teams have that problem is they walk into stadiums where they should just win big,
hmm
and it's like they play around and either lose or nearly lose.
yeah, I agree. I mean 9-4 last year. And they're always on the cusp of winning 8, 9, 10 games a year and making it to the Big 12 They've made it to the Big 12 championship a couple of times a year, and then they end up losing that. They stay ranked. They're always in the top 25 almost every year that when the season starts. And I don't know if it's a recruiting thing, if it's a player development, if it's a offensive or defensive thing. If I had to lean toward one, I would say probably more offensive than defensive because Kansas State every year has an outstanding defense. I mean, they're in the top. If they're not in the top 10, they're typically in the top 15, top 20 defenses in the country every year. And that's what keeps them in their games. I know last year I saw a few games. I didn't, get an opportunity to watch many. They had good quarterback play, but it just seems like you get a good quarterback, but he doesn't have the weapons around him or a key one or two weapons around him to get a downfield threat or something along those lines. So
And what people have talked about for years now is NIL has just changed the landscape so much that
it
you
has.
can't just go out and spend all this money on a quarterback and not put weapons around him. And that even translates into the NFL where you might have someone like Mahomes, but if you put him on the Jacksonville Jaguars where they haven't
hmm
spent the money to go get weapons, I don't think he does what he does.
No, 100%.
I think he squeaks out some wins,
Mm-hmm,
but I don't see him winning these Super Bowls that he has with Kansas City, where he has a team that's willing to spend that money
mm-hmm,
and willing to play that bankroll of keeping weapons around him. And even in some documentaries lately that have came out about Kansas City, Travis Kelsey's talking about, man, we have great GMs that want to keep the core group of guys together. Well, now in college football, you don't really have that.
mm-mm.
NIL every year is like free agency.
Yep.
So I think as it progresses through college football, they'll kind of lock some teams down, maybe create a cap where money has to get spent equally across positions.
Right. And not on top of that, not only NIL, but you also have the transfer portal. You have these 17, 18, 19-year-old kids going to college, and they're not going to college because it's the school that they want to play for, or it's the school they grew up watching. It's a school that, hey, who's going to pay me the most money? Or, and nowadays it's not even who's going to develop me. It's who's going to pay me the most money right now at 17, 18 years old, and then put me on the field and let me go out there and look good, and in the hopes that the NFL is going to pick you up. Yeah.
Absolutely.
But just as well as I do, if you don't get developed, you're not going to play in the NFL. Development starts from Pee Wee all the way up through middle school, through high school, into college, into the NFL. Just because you're making, a certain amount with the NIL deal out of college doesn't mean that you're going to translate well to the NFL at all. and these coaches, we've heard some of the coaches talking about how bad NIL and transfer portal hurting their teams. And I'll throw this out. I just saw this the other day. UTSA, University of Texas San Antonio, they they lost their whole team.
Hmm.
Marshall lost their whole team because of the transfer portal
And that's
and
what
NIL deals. I mean,
you
it,
saw last year in the middle of the season.
crazy,
UNLV lost their quarterback 3 games into the season
right?
over a dispute over NIL.
Right. So I mean, something needs to happen. It needs to be regulated, one way or the other, to get, to keep college football, to keep keep it competitive so that teams can compete. But also you don't want to lose the tradition and the reason we have college football, yeah, and I say this all the time. To me, the NFL is more like a business than it is a sport. I mean, I still love football. I still follow the NFL. I haven't followed it as much over the last couple of years due to the business aspect of it. I just think that, if college gets to that, then we're going to lose what college football really is, and I just hope it doesn't come to that.
And that's
So,
what you remember growing up. College football has always been that ground pounding football game.
yes,
And when you watch NFL, it just didn't feel the same because they don't, it's almost like they don't go as hard once they get paid. And now you're paying the college athletes to where, why should I play hard? I'm
right,
getting paid $6 million a year,
right.
which on top of NIL brings us into the next conference, which is Atlantic Coast Conference.
Mm,
Miami is currently ranked 10th. This is the second year
hmm.
they paid for a QB to come in. You had Cam Ward last year, who was an absolute dog at quarterback, regardless of what people say about him for sitting out the bowl game. He played the first half and had an agreement with the coach that he would sit out the second half and ensure that he gets paid.
Hmm.
Um, Worked out for him. He ended up going first round overall, or first pick overall. So on top of that, you have number 16 SMU in the ACC, number 4 Clemson. Like you said earlier, Clemson saying they go undefeated. I I just don't see it. Going down Clemson's schedule real quick. They open up the season at number 9 LSU. I love these top 25 matchups week
Yes,
one.
yeah,
It
100%.
absolutely shows you what you have in a team as a fan.
I agree.
I never really get to feel it being a Georgia fan because we always start off kind of easy.
Hmm.
But look at LSU and Clemson right here. You're going to know exactly what your team is
Right out of the
starting the
gate.
season right out of the gate. You
Hmm.
know what you need to work on.
Right.
I can see Clemson losing this game. You have Garrett Nussmeier returning for LSU.
Great quarterback.
Great quarterback play. Their defense, I mean,
It's a
they're
Southeastern Conference defense.
absolutely.
LSU is always going to have a great defense.
And like LSU's what, cornerback you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So then they go to Troy. Here we come, Georgia Tech. First hot take of the year, Georgia Tech wins the ACC.
I think Georgia Tech will be competing for the ACC championship this year, 100%. They're doing some good things down there. Yeah, I think that Clemson Georgia Tech game is going to be a good early season matchup. And if Georgia Tech wins that game, which I feel they have a better than average chance to do so, then I think Clemson is going to be struggling, and Georgia Tech is probably going to put the metal to the pedal and just
I,
run away with it.
I think if Clemson loses to LSU, they go on a 2 or 3 game skid there because it's just back to back for them. They get Troy as kind of a warm up. Let's see what we got after LSU. Let's get healthy. Let's see, and then they go into Syracuse, decent team. Um, they they've had some
Yeah.
big wins the past couple years.
Hmm.
Then they go to North Carolina, which I know you're excited about watching Bill Belichick in his
I
first season of
am.
college football.
I am. I am excited about North Carolina and Bill Belichick. I think he's going to do some good things down there. You know, it's he's a great coach. I mean, everybody knows what he did in the NFL. Everybody knows what he did at New England. Everybody knows what he did with Tom Brady. I think a lot of people are going to go to North Carolina, especially people who have aspirations of playing in the NFL, to get developed the right way. And if anybody can do that, it's going to be Bill Belichick. I know he flipped a couple of recruits and he grabbed a couple of them out of the transfer portal early because they know that they're going to be developed the way that they need to be developed in order to go play in the NFL.
Absolutely. And then Clemson goes into Boston College. Boston College is one of those you never know what you're going to get year to
That's
year.
true.
Next hard game is going to be at SMU. Then they go play Duke at home, play Florida State at home, and Florida State's just awful right now. I think this is one of those seasons where if they're not plus 500 at the end of the year, Mike Norvell's gone. I just it's kind of hard because Florida State struggled so much with coaching, and they got Mike Norvell there. Had a really good season. Quarterback goes down 2 games before the end of the season. They get kept out of the playoffs, and it's kind of like that.
Because of that, yeah,
It's like that hangover is just
still
stayed
there.
in his coaching career.
Right.
And how do we get past that? Well, how we get past that is by building a team
Hmm.
and not going and getting DJ from Clemson, who was terrible.
So yes, yeah, I agree. Yeah, that he's made some logistical decisions, for lack of a better term, that has shot himself in the foot with some of the things that he's done. However, I will say this: I obviously I'm a Gator fan, so when that week when rivalry week happens, I'm all about hating on Florida State. But I will tell you this: Mike Norvell is a great coach. The things he did when he was at Memphis and then coming to Florida State, I think that if he can get the team turned around this year, and a lot of people are saying they're going to have a rough season, I still think they have the opportunity to win 7 or 8 games this year. And if they can win 7 or 8 games this year, I do think that he will survive the season. However, if they struggle like they did last year, this will be his last season in Florida State. And I do not think they will, I don't think they'll fire him in the middle of the season because the season he had last year and them not getting rid of him in the middle of the
So
season.
shows some kind of commitment.
Yeah, they're committed to him some way or in some way or shape or form. But I do think that if he doesn't at least win 7 or 8 games this year and make it to a bowl game, then they will part ways with him at the end of the season. And I will go ahead and tell you, number one on the list for Florida State's new coach will be Deion Sanders.
I can see that.
So I think that's something that's been discussed. I think it's being discussed. Obviously, nobody's going to say that right now because it's too early in the season. But when we get about halfway through the season, depending on how well he's doing, and and even if they do win 8 games, 7 or 8 games, there's still a possibility they still may part ways, and they may still go after Dion. So
And I think honestly, Florida State needs one of those 8, 9, 10 win seasons just to get the boosters back into
right,
it.
I agree.
Because it's hard to go to your boosters whenever you go 2-10.
Yes,
There is no words you could say to get them to invest any kind of money into your program. And
yeah.
with Florida State being such a big school, I know a bunch of people that wanted to go to it just because of the atmosphere of Florida State.
Hmm.
You're on the coast. Sometimes you have great football, sometimes you don't. I remember it feels like 10, 15 years ago when Florida State and Auburn were playing in the national championship game.
Yep.
It just it's like they can never be consistent enough to make recruits
Yeah,
come.
and obviously they haven't had consistency since Bobby Bowden. So I mean, even when Jimbo Fisher was there, I mean he had some winning seasons at Florida State, but obviously we all saw how that unraveled around him there toward the end. So they need a coach who can come in, recruit, handle NIL, handle transfer portal, keep the athletes there, keep the current players happy so that they don't transfer out, bring back that Florida State Seminole attitude that they had in that late '90s, early
Absolutely.
2000s.
And staying prior to going into any other team, I think going back to Clemson as well. I'll go ahead and give it out. Clemson finishes 9-3 and fails to make the college football playoffs. It,
Yeah, I can see
if
that.
if they do make the college football playoffs, it's because either the ACC got really weak or got really hurt, and they somehow ended up winning basically the conference championship and getting their way into the college football playoff that way.
Right.
With Florida State, as we continue our conversation, I think the biggest test for them is allowing Miami to come into their house and see how they play Miami, Florida State. Speaking of Miami, pick up a huge quarterback transfer this year, Carson Beck out of Georgia.
They did. Yep.
I am not a Carson Beck hater, although I'm a big Georgia fan. Um, I I think that team had more problems than what it led on. They led all of FBS in drops last year, which is terrible as a quarterback. You know it hurts your draft stock. You know it hurts you
Right,
in the locker room,
right,
and all the fans put it on Carson Beck.
right.
I will say I am a Mike Bobo hater. I think he runs conservative offenses, fails to win the big games. He leaves for 2 years. We go back to back national championships. He comes back, and we have not sniffed it since.
Yeah, I Mike Bobo's been around for a while. He's had some head coaching jobs. And then he's back at Georgia. I do think that Georgia needs to, and I'll be the first one to tell you, if you're going to win in the SEC and if you're going to win in college football, you got to establish a running game.
Absolutely.
Which means that your offensive linemen have got to be mean, they've got to be nasty, they got to be hard in the trenches. And then from your running game, then you can go out and do work on your passing game and get your passing game going. Far too many teams, and Georgia got into this a little bit last year. They abandoned the run game, and Georgia's got athletes at running back.
Hmm.
You know, and and
Nate
I
Frazier,
yeah,
dog.
and I'll go ahead and tell you they got athletes at wide receiver too, 100%. But I will tell you, if you're going to survive a 16 game season, including the college football playoffs, you have got to establish a run game, and you have got to you work your passing game off of that run game. Georgia runs a lot of play action, and if you're not running the ball, you can't run play action. It's not
You
going to happen.
cannot. And I think it was unfair to put all the weight back on Carson
I
Beck
agree.
last year.
I agree.
When you have people dropping balls, you're going three and outs because of drop
Yep.
passes, tipped passes, interceptions. It kind of forced Carson Beck into making throws that he shouldn't have.
Right.
And when you have that, you're going to throw picks.
Hmm.
I think the biggest test to see the new and improved, I hope, Carson Beck, because I'm a huge fan of him. Liked what he did at Georgia prior to last year when everyone kind of started hating on him a little bit. His biggest test is going to be week one, August 31st versus number six Notre Dame. I think that's a huge determination of Notre Dame's season as well. Possibly keeps them out of the college football playoffs.
I agree. Yeah. And Notre Dame's got a lot to prove. Every year, there's always been, for as long as I can remember, even when we went to the 14 playoff, everybody was saying Notre Dame needed to be in a conference. Whether it was the ACC or the Big Ten, it was always, they're an independent, and that's just how Notre Dame's been forever. But I agree. I think that game against Miami is going to be huge for them, and if they walk away with a loss, I think it will affect them negatively. Obviously, I mean it's going to boost Miami, you know, but I will tell you that Notre Dame is not going to be a pushover this year. Their defense is going to be probably one of the best
In college
in
football.
college football this year. Their front seven is going to be magnificent. Um, if they have any questions on defense, it's probably going to be the back half, defensive backs. Um, but
Which we have seen Carson Beck absolutely exploit
yes,
bad safeties and bad cornerback play.
yeah. And as far as Miami goes, I think the only question that Miami's going to have this year, the two biggest ones, is going to be their offensive line, um, and I think also is going to be on the defensive side.
And I know you're excited for it, but Miami, Florida, early predictions.
If Lagway stays healthy, Florida wins that game, 100%. Um,
Which Miami's traditionally had a poor defense versus running
right.
quarterbacks.
And I just think that Florida is at the cusp of making that turn that everybody has been expecting them to make over the last couple of years. I think Billy Napier, I think this is his year to break that 9, 10 game mark.
It's either make it or you're gone. I feel like at this point.
Yeah, I mean, he's done some good things. I think that with Florida, their only question this year is going to be their offensive line, which has been a question for them over the last several years. There's never been a doubt that they have playmakers. They always have a good quarterback. They always have good receivers. They always got outstanding running backs. Defensively, their front seven has always been great. There might be a little question every now and then about the back half, but I mean, I think Florida's biggest question this year is going to be the offensive line. Can they block? Can they pass block for DJ? Keep him off of his back, where he don't have to run for his life, and can they run block for those 3 to 4 running backs that they have in the backfield that are going to be outstanding this year? I think
Because
if
we
they
saw
can,
it last year with just a lack of offensive line play.
yes,
DJ Lagway cannot stay healthy
no,
behind a poor
no,
offensive line. I
and
don't think any quarterback in the country could do it.
no, and and the other thing too, and this goes for any team in college football, you got to have offensive production to give your defense a time to rest.
Absolutely.
They cannot be playing 40, 50 snaps in the first half and then coming out expecting to keep a close game in the second half for another 40 or 50 snaps. It's just not going to happen.
Biggest example of that, I know it's professional football, but look at the New England Falcons game where it's 28-3 and Falcons have no offensive production for almost 2 quarters.
Right.
And defense is tired,
Yeah.
starts giving up big
Yeah.
plays. It's
Right.
easy to allow comebacks at
Oh,
that point.
it is. Yeah. And there's no amount, I mean, and these kids they're in great shape. They hit the gym, they're out there going to 2 a days. They're out there practicing. But, if you're just going consistently, going, there's no amount of Gatorade, there's no amount of water, pickle juice, whatever. There's just oranges, bananas. There's just not enough out there to keep you going for a full 60-minute game where your offense is not helping you out and keep getting you an opportunity to get on the sidelines and get some rest.
So before we get into the greatest conference of college football, the SEC, who do you pick to win the ACC this year?
Ooh, ACC this year. You know, for me, honestly, it's probably going to be between Georgia Tech and Miami. That's going to be my two picks.
So you're saying Miami, Georgia Tech conference championship game, winner take all goes to college football playoffs.
Yes.
Who you taking there?
Just out of the ACC,
Just out of the ACC, Georgia
mm,
Tech, Miami.
I would say probably Miami would have the better chance than Georgia Tech, but Georgia Tech's my sleeper.
But we saw how Georgia Tech slowed down Georgia last year
We did.
to go to 8 overtimes.
Yeah,
So
I
I think if they could slow the game down enough,
played their game.
play their game, and
Hmm.
take Miami away from the big plays, I
Hmm.
think that we're going to see out of Carson Beck and his wide receiver weapons this year.
Right. I agree.
Um, I I think at that point Georgia Tech wins ACC.
Yeah. And before we jump into the SEC, when you talk about the Big Ten, because we'll save the SEC for last. Um, so the Big Ten, obviously everybody knows about how the Pac-12 got gutted, and we had Oregon and USC, Washington, UCLA all go over to the Big Ten for that conference to make it a 16-team big conference. And obviously the Big Ten
Grown.
has grown, and the teams have gotten a lot better. It's affected their recruiting. Obviously NIL transfer porters and stuff like that as well. Um, Oregon won the Big Ten last year. Um, you know, it always used to be, between Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State, and now you're throwing in teams like Oregon. And at some point in time, I'm sure Washington is going to be on the rebound. USC, you can never count out USC. I think they're going to be in the talks of the Big Ten a little bit this year as well. So instead of the same old 3 teams, now you got about 6 teams that are going to be competing for that Big Ten championship.
Which
Um,
I think the USC belonged in the conference prior to the Big Ten.
mhm.
Just their lack of defensive play hurts them to a certain extent over in the Big Ten. You have defenses like Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State. Oregon's turned it on with Dan Lanning being a defensive minded coach.
Yes.
I think USC is gonna have to build their defense in order to withstand this conference. Just if it's a shame last year you saw USC play LSU right off the bat.
Hmm.
Both quarterbacks throw for over 350 yards.
Hmm.
USC ended up winning this game
Hmm.
based off some bad mistakes and turnovers by
By
LSU.
LSU. Yeah, I watched
But
that game.
but it was just a knockdown drag out between both teams, and that's not sustainable over a year. You cannot expect your quarterback to throw for 300 plus, 400 plus a game
No.
when you get to a conference championship, especially not against defenses with Oregon and Michigan, where they want you to run the football.
Right.
They want you to go in front of their D line and middle linebackers and get absolutely stuffed and then start throwing the football and
Mm-hmm.
making mistakes and
Mm-hmm.
forcing you into tight windows to throw interceptions.
Oh yeah, because they can pin
And,
their ears back and come get you.
and that's
You make them
where
one dimensional. I mean, they're coming.
a huge rivalry at in the Big Ten is Michigan Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
And you almost always have to bet the under points in that game because it's just two outstanding defenses going against one another. And it always seems like the offenses have an off day that day.
Yep.
But I think it's just a defensive play. Um, one of my letdown teams over in the Big Ten is Penn State. Um, that's kind of one of those teams where you watch it, it seems like they can't win the big one. They
Right.
they struggle against Ohio State. They I think they beat Michigan last year if they played. I can't quite remember, but they have these big whiteout games at
Mm-hmm.
home,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just a letdown game. They had multiple opportunities to beat Ohio State last year in that game, and it's like they never could convert. I remember it was halftime, like 30 seconds to go. They're on the two. Some questionable play calling comes in. They have zero timeouts, but they're still running the football on first and second down.
Yeah.
I think that's where your coaching comes into play. Where can we go for our goal line offense to score this football going into half, carry some momentum into the second half,
Mm-hmm.
and come out swinging again? Ohio State's absolutely going to be good this year.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And I think Ohio State feels like they have something to prove again this year, just like they did last year. Ryan Day has taken over that program, and he has revitalized it, for lack of a better
which
term.
for I think winning the national championship last year saved his coaching job. Um, you watch any podcast out of Michigan, Ohio State, you even hear it on ESPN, stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. Even the fans up there, man, if you don't beat Michigan, you are not going to be the Ohio State coach for long.
You're right. Yeah, 100%. They don't care if you go 1-11. That one win better be against Michigan.
For them, you're either
So
1-0 or 0-1
yeah,
every year.
every year. Yeah.
And Michigan's just had their number.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, with Michigan, we have the scandal that just came out, the 74-page report. Connor Stallions gets an 8-year show cause, basically banned, where any team that wants to hire him has to explain why it's a good idea to hire him
Right.
and not pay the penalty. Um, Harbaugh never comes back to college football, so I guess it doesn't really matter there.
I don't.
Um,
I don't think he ever planned on coming back anyway when he left. So
Moore is going to be suspended first game of the season for Michigan and 2 games next year, or 2 games this year, 1 game next year.
which he's filed an appeal, by the way.
He has.
Yeah.
Um,
So we'll
I
see how that goes.
I know the 2 games for this year are already self-induced by the university. I
Mm-hmm.
think he does serve those just to when the appeal does go through. If they reverse the other game decision, they don't just say, "Oh, well, you still have two," because he's already
Mm-hmm.
served them. With the university doing the 2 game suspension, it actually allows them to pick which games. Because imagine NCAA comes out, hey, we're going to hurt you in your best game.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to basically suspend you for the Ohio State game,
Yep.
which leads to a lot of controversy amongst fans of,
Yep.
oh, well, we would have beat you if our head coach was there.
Exactly. Well, in the Big Ten, they've got six ranked teams in the top 25 this year, with Penn State coming in at two, Ohio State at three, Oregon's at seven, Illinois at 12, Michigan at 14, and then Indiana at 20. So, they've got some teams that are gonna have an opportunity to compete for the championship. But I agree. I think it's going to come down to I'm gonna go, I probably Ohio State and Oregon this year. I think is probably going to be playing for the Big Ten
I,
championship.
I can see that. I think this is one of those years, though. I said they're always a letdown. But I think this is the year that Penn State finally jumps the hurdle, either with Oregon or Ohio State, and
Hmm.
finds herself in the Big Ten championship game.
And since James Franklin has taken over Penn State, he has done some outstanding things. I mean, they've had great seasons. He had great seasons at Vanderbilt, and if you can go win at Vanderbilt, you can go win anywhere. And he had some great seasons at Vanderbilt. He's a great coach. He's a great motivator. Kids, the kids and the young men he recruits to come play for him. They love playing for him. He's a no nonsense guy. You know. And but I agree with you. I think he's steadily on that cusp of taking that next step
Absolutely. And
to get Penn State over that hump, to get them where they need to go to get that national championship that's been eluding them over the last
I,
several years.
I will not say it's this year, but I think Signetti at Indiana is a good 2 years away from really being in contention for that conference championship every year. I think they need a few more big wins, recruit a little bit more, get involved in NIL games, which is just pay a good quarterback to come.
Hmm.
Um, Michigan has an absolute beast at quarterback coming in this year.
Right.
Straight out of high school, obviously he's going to have growing pains, like we see with every quarterback that comes into college football. Um, that's just what's happened nowadays. Is you have companies out here willing to pay the money to get good quarterback play, and if you're not providing it, either the coach is gone or we're going to buy somebody else next year.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, and unfortunately, money is what makes the world go round, and it has now infiltrated college football to a point where it's now seen by everybody, and yeah, if you can't get the right amount of money and the right deals for these kids, they're going to go somewhere else, and so you're going to have to you're going to have to figure out a way to entice these kids to come play for you because now I mean, the tradition's still there, but it's also going to be like, okay, yeah, I'll come play for Indiana or I'll come play for whoever, but also, you know, what are you willing to give me
Right. And I will say, you kind of gave your take. I'll say Dan Lanning wins the Big Ten championship again this year with the Oregon
with Oregon?
Ducks.
Yeah.
Um, he's kind of taken some tools away from Kirby where he just has consistency in a team.
Hmm.
Great coaching, smart in the fourth quarter, tends to have players that just they get better as the game goes on.
Hmm.
And that 2 minute offense, fourth quarter, I will always take Dan Lanning's teams.
100%.
Unless they're playing Kirby Smart, and then I'm going to take Kirby's teams. So
Yeah. All right. So now we're going to move into, in my personal opinion, the best conference in college
mine as
football.
well.
So the SEC has 10, count them up, 10 ranked teams in the AP Top 25. I'll rattle them off real quick and then we'll talk about each one. Texas obviously is number one, which to my understanding kind of surprised everybody. But it is what it is. Georgia, your team, number 5. Alabama is number 8. LSU is number 9. South Carolina in at 13. Florida, go Gators, is in at 15. Oklahoma at 18. Texas A&M at 19. Ole Miss 21, and then Tennessee at 24. Let's just go down the list. Let's start with Texas.
You say Texas number one, but that
Yeah.
might not last long. August 30th, we have a top five matchup versus Ohio State at Ohio State game or at Ohio State. Kind of a shame that's not a nighttime game. It is actually a 12 p.m. start that
Is it a
weekend.
12 p.m. start that weekend?
It
Yeah.
is.
So that's going to be a good game. I think that's going to probably end up being a closer game than most people are probably thinking on. But having to go to Ohio State and beat Ohio State at home is a feat in itself.
It is.
So, yeah, that's I don't know. I don't know. I mean, Arch Manning will be starting for them. Again, we talked about this earlier. He's a great quarterback, great athlete. Um, but the question is is he is he going to be able to handle the full season as a starting quarterback for Texas and all the pressure that that's going to come with?
Which early betting lines for that Texas Ohio State game has Ohio State by minus 2.5. Over under is 47.5. I would not touch a spread on that game, even
Mm-mm,
if you paid me to take it.
mm-mm,
Um, I actually think that game goes over. I easily see the final score being 35-28, somewhere in that range.
mm-hmm.
Um, not sure what the quarterback play out of Ohio State's going to be. I just think you're going to have two offenses that go down the field. Regardless of quarterback play, you have some absolute weapons. You have Jeremiah Smith at Ohio State, where
Yes.
you have people that can spread the field enough to carry the ball down the field, wear out a defense. Texas defense has been questionable at times in big games, and
Hmm.
I expect first game of the year a lot of mistakes and offense to just kind of take precedence in that game.
I agree. Out of both the teams, I think Ohio State's defense is probably going to be a little bit better than Texas's defense. There's been some times where Texas's defense has not shown up in games, and their offense bailed them out by just scoring more points than the other team.
Hmm.
Um, I don't think Texas can live off of that this year. I definitely don't think they can live off of that playing teams like a Ohio State or an Oregon or a Georgia, you know. So
And
th-
realistically, you have a freshman QB at Texas.
right,
I know I say over 47.5. I think that's a little low for that game, especially in what's it called, the shoe of Ohio
yeah,
State. Looks kind of like a tulip bowl to me. Can't stand Ohio State, but I think the over 47.5 is going to be an outstanding line for that game.
yeah.
Like I said here, score prediction 45-28 or 35-28, if not more.
I think it's going to be more.
I think Ohio State takes that game.
I do
Texas
too.
takes
Yeah,
their early loss and
yeah,
carries on through the season.
right.
Um, Again, Texas plays at Florida. Um, that I think that game mainly depends on Lagway's health,
I agree.
how he's playing throughout the season, how the
Hmm.
locker room is, how the fan base is.
Hmm.
Um, as Florida fans, week 2 last year, y'all had tweets going around, people yelling in the stadium to fire y'all's head coach.
Yes, we
So I
did.
think that'll be interesting. Other than that, you got Texas at Georgia and Texas uh, playing Texas A&M. I will actually be boots on the ground, Texas, Georgia. Hopefully that's a night game.
If it is, yeah, that I don't know what it is about nighttime in college football, but it just affects everything.
It does.
I
Environment's
yeah,
insane.
it's crazy how just turning on the lights and the sun going down just changes the entire dynamic of a college football game. I mean, you go to any stadium, whether it's Alabama's in Tuscaloosa, Jordan Hare in Auburn, the Swamp, Sanford Stadium with Georgia. I mean, I mean, even teams like Mississippi State, I mean,
Right.
you go in there at a nighttime
E-
game. I mean, it's something in the water or somebody sprinkling
e-
pixie dust or something.
Even watching it televised at Mississippi State, you have to turn the TV off because it's just
Yeah,
cowbells all
cowbells just
night.
going insane. Yeah,
I won't speak on the next team, just being a fan. Obviously, I have bias. Greatest team in college football. Number 5, Georgia Bulldogs, coached by Kirby Smart.
yeah. So Kirby he has done some wonderful things at Georgia. Obviously, he is a great football coach. He is a great player developer. I think the only issue, and we talked about this, is the conservative play call of Mike Bobo. Um, I think they need to get back to their roots, and I think they need to start running the ball again like they used to, and then working their play action. There is no doubt that he's always going to recruit great players. There is no doubt that they're always going to have a top 10 recruiting class, if not a top five, every year as long as he stays at Georgia. There is no doubt that Georgia is always going to compete for an SEC championship and a college football playoff. But I do think that offensively, there needs to be a change, whether Mike Bobo changes some things up or they go a completely other route with somebody else. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. That's something that's something Coach Smart has to figure out on his own, along with the administration at Georgia. But I do think that if that subtle change, I think will be enough to get to where they're
Trying to go.
yeah.
I think Gunnar Stockton's going to provide a great quarterback play this year. Has some very big weapons that came into the transfer portal with the Branch brothers.
Yes.
We still have Bell out there at wide receiver. He's kind of looking like a wide receiver 3 at the moment.
Hmm.
Georgia's relied heavily here lately on the tight end play. You had Brock Bowers. You had a wide receiver in Lad McConkey. Um, they just made it outstandingly easy for Stinson Bennett and Carson Beck when he was still there. Suffered some injuries, and I think if those injuries didn't happen, we had the possibility of a three-peat. Um,
Right.
I'm not going to say we got robbed. Um, should have done our jobs playing Alabama in the SEC championship that year. But talking about running the football at Georgia, you got Nate Frazier returning this year. As long as he can stop turning the ball over when he runs, I think that'll be the key piece of if he is RB1 or not.
Mm-hmm.
In a couple big games last year, he turned the ball over a couple times,
Mm-hmm.
fumbled on goal lines. That's just not something you can have in the SEC. You can't just afford a team to stay in the game fourth quarter and just keep turning the ball over.
Right.
Same thing happened with Carson and his interceptions last year. Um, those aren't all on him. That's a lot in the drops. Big games I'm looking forward to this year just as a fan of Georgia football. We play at Tennessee, Alabama at home.
That's
And
going to be a good game, by the way.
um, it's it's going to be a great year for college football, man. We play at Auburn, Ole Miss at home. Florida's always in Jacksonville.
Mm-hmm.
Largest cocktail party in the world. Haven't been in a couple years, but might be making a trip down there here in a few years.
Mm-hmm.
We play at Mississippi State. Like we said a minute ago, I'm not excited for that game on television. And then we play Texas at home. And to close out the year, we play Georgia Tech, which I think is going to be an insane game to play on a Friday at 3:30.
I tell you what, if Georgia Tech shows look like they did last year, it's definitely going to be an insane game.
Uh,
Eight overtimes?
eight overtimes last year. Um,
That was insane. That
the game was I want to say it was a 7:30 game, and I want to say it ended around 2:30 in the
yeah,
morning Eastern Standard Time.
yeah, it was a long game. It bypassed that LSU game, that LSU Texas A&M game where they did six overtimes
Absolutely.
and played till like 12:30 or 1 o'clock in the morning. So a
So
couple of years ago. So yeah, that was insane, insane.
next up is going to be the number 9 LSU Tigers. I I just don't even know what to say about this team. Every year the hype is there, the recruits are there, the defense is always there, and it always just kind of feels like they come up short, which is the same deal with their head coach at Notre Dame. He just couldn't win the big ones.
Hmm. Yeah, Brian Kelly, um, great, great coach, great offensive mind. Um, but he seems to be that seems to be his holdup is getting the games that they need to get over the hump
Hmm.
to get LSU back to where they used to be when Les Miles was there, or hell, even when Ed Orgeron was there. Winning the big games. Um, LSU can easily win 8, 9 games every year, but that's not going to make LSU fans happy. That's not going to make uh,
They
the,
want to
the
win national
yeah,
championship games.
that's not going to make the administration happy. They want SEC championships and they want national championships. And in order to do that, you've got to win the big games to get that done. And he just seems to fall short um, every year. Um, now, I don't think he's on the hot seat necessarily. Is it getting warm? 100%. I think a lot that happens this year is going to dictate that. But I do think
But
that,
you look at the coaching of Ed Orgeron. Wins a national championship, plays one more season, and he's
and they get
gone.
rid of him, right? Yep.
Obviously, had some off the field issues
Yes.
that kind of added to his buyout. But the team wasn't performing on the field, and
Right.
LSU's not going to put up with that.
No.
I don't know which coach is better for them out there to go get. Um, Dion is not an option, I don't think, for LSU. I think he would be a great fit with the boosters of LSU, but I could see
Right.
him going to Florida State over LSU.
I do too, and I know and Dan Lanning's name always comes up for the SEC coaching vacancies, especially the big schools. Like when Nick Saban retired, Alabama. I believe the rumor was that Alabama contacted Dan Lanning, and he basically shot him down and said, "No, I'm happy at Oregon." I
But
know.
Oregon has that Nike deal that pays them millions,
Yeah,
and he could never want anything else.
right. So, and then I mean, I think too, the issue is going to be you got to find the right fit, you know. So, you know, and I don't know if I don't know if this will be Brian Kelly's last year. I do think it has a lot to do with how many games they win. I think if he's 8-4 or better, I think he stays one more year. If he's 7-5 or less, then I probably see LSU going in a different direction with somebody else.
I could as well. Just looking at LSU's schedule real quick. They start off the season with number 4 Clemson,
Hmm.
another top 10, top 25 matchup that shows you what you got.
Hmm.
Um, Louisiana Tech, that should be a given. If LSU struggles there, Brian Kelly is absolutely on the hot seat. Um, they play at home against Florida, at Ole Miss, just listing off big games, at
Hmm.
home against South Carolina, at Vanderbilt, which has been a complete turnaround the past 2 years.
Right.
Texas A&M at home, at Alabama, Arkansas at home, and then at Oklahoma. I think we see the potential for them to go 7-5 this year. And Brian Kelly to absolutely be do or die next year.
Right. I agree. Let's talk about Alabama real quick. They're ranked number 8 this
Mm.
year. Kevin Kevin DeBoer's second season
Yeah, Kalen
after
DeBoer's second season after Nick Saban's
Nick
retirement.
Saban. I feel sorry for that man in Tuscaloosa because you having to follow essentially the goat of college football, and the expectations are through the roof, and you're having to. I mean, I tell you what, I give him props for stepping into that role, knowing what he was stepping into.
I mean, they go 5-3 last year, and you're talking about people saying he's not going to work here.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just one of those things where overall they were 9-4, 5-3 in the conference, like you said. You know, but that but after following Nick Saban, that's unacceptable. 9-4 is unacceptable.
Absolutely.
Which to me is just astronomically insane. But I do think that if they are patient with him, and it's the key word, patient. If they are patient with him, let him come in and create his own culture. I do think that Alabama will see 10-win seasons again, competing for the SEC and national championship.
But you talk about his culture. I think along with that is bringing in the discipline that he wants in a team.
Right.
We saw last year when they were playing Vandy, one of his CBs goes over there and kicks the ball right after the ref puts it down. Just a lack of discipline on that team last year. I think it was kind of uncoachable. You
Right.
had a really senior team that was recruited by Nick Saban.
Yep.
New coach coming in.
I think
I
they took advantage of the situation.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I think this year, with him having his own recruits that he's went out and talked to, I see the potential for them to be good. I think they have another off year where they at least drop 2 or 3 games, preferably one against Georgia. I would hate to see them win in Athens.
Right.
Won't be going to that game, be watching it on the TV, but I couldn't see Georgia losing in Athens. I also see them possibly dropping a game to South Carolina, which has been on the up and up this year.
Yeah. 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 And speaking of South Carolina, we'll go ahead and roll into them. They're ranked number 13 this year. Beamer ball is in full effect in
It
South
is.
Carolina. I'm telling you what, Shane Beamer is his dad made over, and he is doing some outstanding things in South Carolina. And I will tell you, you look at what South Carolina has done over the last several years since Shane Beamer has taken over. That is what patience will get you. Because when Shane Beamer first took over and South Carolina did not do well, everybody was like, "Fire Shane Beamer. He's not the man for the job. Fire Shane Beamer." And South Carolina said, "No, we're going to stay with him. We see his vision. We know what he's planning on doing." And they stayed with him. They backed him. The boosters stayed with him. The boosters backed him. And look at where they're at. You
But I
know,
think at South Carolina, as a head coach, that's where you want to be. Because if you can go to South Carolina post Spurrier days and go 8-4, 9-3
hmm.
yearly, your job is pretty solid.
Oh yeah,
No one's just expecting them to come out of the woodworks and win an SEC championship. But I think watching Beamer, watching how he coaches these kids,
hmm,
makes you want them to be good.
yes, and
Um,
have a good year. 9-4 last year and 5-3 in the conference. I mean, that's we're used to seeing 7-5, six
right.
and six, maybe 8-4, and then finishing 3-5 or 4-4 in the conference. you know.
And just as a fan of two SEC teams, myself being Georgia, you being Florida, you want as many great teams in the SEC as possible so
Yes.
that when you do suffer those one or two losses a year, and it comes time for the CFP to pick their 12 best teams of the year,
Hmm.
you want to have those top 25 strength of schedules where, hey, every person we played this year was ranked.
Right. I agree.
If we're playing 8 conference games and 7 of them are ranked, you just saw what I'm going to look like in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And you have no choice but to put me in.
Hmm.
Um, Beamer ball is going to be in full effect, I believe, this year with his crazy onside kicks,
Oh yeah.
fake fourth punts.
Yeah, yeah, and
Um,
his decision making is pretty much a spitting image of what his dad Frank Beamer did back in the Virginia Tech days in the '90s and the early 2000s. You know, great defense, great offense, special teams. You know, winning in all three phases of the game. You know, is what made Virginia Tech successful during
mhm.
that time, and he has learned from one of the greatest coaches in college football, from his dad, and he is applying that at South Carolina, and he is turning South Carolina into back into a great football program. Back when Lou Holtz was there and when Steve Spurrier was there.
I think Sanders in his second year is going to come out of the woodworks a little bit. He's actually in the Heisman betting. If you want to go into South Carolina a little bit more, I'll get this pulled up so we can figure out the lines of what his Heisman betting is.
Yeah, you know, and I think the other thing too is, you know, defensively, South Carolina has gotten back to that SEC hard knock, you know, just nasty defense. You know, I mean,
And
it,
last year they were running the football
yeah.
everywhere.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that's the other thing too, the offensive line. I mean, you know, you if you would have take South Carolina's offensive line and put it with another SEC school that was struggling offensively at the offensive line position, I mean, the running backs would have ran for 12, 13, maybe even 14, 1,500
Right.
yards. You know, I mean, they were just going insane. So, I mean, he's getting all phases of the game squared away, you know.
So
So,
obviously we're before the season. Snap zero.
mhm,
Lenore Sellers is opening up at plus 1,700 to win the Heisman, which makes him the fifth odds-on favorite to win the Heisman this year. I think that hype is warranted. He played really good last year.
he did play really good last year.
Um, I, they lost a couple close ones. They were in within a
Hmm.
field goal of beating Alabama.
I,
Um,
I think all of their losses were less than 7 points
they
last
were.
year. Every one of them were less than 7 points, if I remember correctly. And that in itself is phenomenal for a team to be able to hang with, especially the teams that they played against. You know, so yeah, I mean, you know, as long as Sellers can stay healthy, I think they're going to be fine. I think they're going to be the most complete team in the SEC this year as far as defensively, offensively, and special teams. And I think that if they get some things to go their way, then they're going to be squared away.
And I think South Carolina, with being kind of a small team market in the SEC,
Hmm.
they got to run the football.
Yes.
Um, I want to see college football get back to these running backs getting
Hmm.
maybe 20, 25 carries a game and run the football.
Oh yeah.
Um, Obviously, you need your big shots. If you get down early in the game, you have to throw the football to come
Hmm.
back. It's just one of those deals nowadays. But South Carolina, being a small market going up against these big teams, is going to have to run the football.
Yes.
Carrying over from that is into the Florida Gators. Hopefully, we see some better offensive line play this year to where Florida can run the football and protect DJ Lagway.
Yeah, I go ahead and tell you right now, Florida has probably got three, if not four, of the best running backs in the country. And I think in order to take the pressure off of Lagway so he doesn't feel like he has to handle every play himself, we have, they have got to get that offensive line taken care of. That is in my opinion, that is the biggest question mark for Florida. Can the offensive line pass block and run block and keep Lagway off his behind and upright, give him time to throw the ball? And can they run block and give those running backs an opportunity to get in between the tackles and the guards and get 4 to 5 yards of carry and run that offense that Billy Napier wants to run? But if the offensive line, if they can't get that question mark taken care of with the offensive line, then Florida is going to struggle this year, just like they did last year. And I'll go ahead and tell you, I am a die-hard Florida Gators fan. I love Florida. I have been following Florida since Spurrier took over, and I will tell you that I'm also one of their biggest critics. And defensively, we're going to be fine. Florida's going to be fine. They're always fine every year. The only question mark on the defense is going to be the back half, which is going to be defensive backs. We've got some young guys playing safety and strong safety in the corners, but I still think that they're going to be okay. Our front seven is going to be strong. I know we just lost one of our ends to an injury.
Is Lagway back healthy? I've not read yet.
So there there was some he was in a boot a couple of weeks ago, but if I'm not mistaken, I believe he practiced this last week. He took reps this last week without the boot on. Don't know the significance of why he was in the boot. I don't think that's been released, and if it has, I haven't seen it. Um, but I just think that they need to get the offensive line taken care of, and then Florida will be fine. Florida will take care of themselves.
Which on the bright side, if Lagway is still injured, we still have 3 weeks where we possibly need to see Lagway in a game at number 9 LSU on September 13th.
Yeah. And I'll go ahead and tell you, I am picking Florida to finish 9-3 this year. I,
Do you
Florida,
think that leaves Napier with his job?
yes, I think it will. And Florida's got the toughest schedule in the country by far. That they had it last year and they got it again this year. Um, but I do think that the team can handle that schedule. I think the losses are going to be closer this year than they were last year. We had some quarterback issues last year, obviously, with Graham Mertz getting hurt, and then I think the way it was going to work last year was that Graham Mertz was obviously going to be the starter, good quarterback, managed the game, and then they were going to have packages for Lagway to come in. And I think that if that had worked out, Florida probably would have had a better season, 8-4, 9-3, maybe. This year, Lagway is the man. He's the starter, and as long as he stays healthy, then Florida's going to be okay. But again, the toughest schedule in the country. Again, year number two. So
Preseason,
yeah,
preseason.
preseason. So we're gonna see how it goes. But I think they're gonna be fine. I think Billy Napier keeps his job again this year as long as he wins at least 8 games. Yeah, and I'll go as far as this, and then we'll move on. 7-5 is going to be a successful year for him this year. They'll keep him, I think. If he anything less than 7-5, then they may start looking at getting rid of him and his seat getting hot again.
Which y'all are guaranteed Lagway at least for this year and next year, correct?
We
He
hope.
is currently a sophomore
He
this
is
year.
a sophomore, and I will tell you, the rumor was last year that when Coach Napier was on the hot seat and they were talking about getting rid of him, a lot of the players let the administration know that if they got rid of Coach Napier, that they would transfer out.
Okay.
So that tells you that they are buying into what he's preaching down there. So I think Florida needs to pull a South Carolina
And be
and give
patient.
him time and be patient and not expect immediate results. And I think that if they do that, then if not this year, then definitely next year. And I'll go
I
ahead and
think
tell
if
you.
I think if y'all beat Miami in their house, no matter if y'all go 1-11, Napier is safe.
Well, and I'll tell you this too. We went from one of the worst recruiting classes in the country to just within the last several weeks to into the I believe the top 15 recruiting
For
classes
next year.
for next year. So we went from like I think we were like 30th or something like that to where we jumped into the top 15, if not the top 10. So he's doing something, and I think that the Florida fans, including myself, and I think that the Florida administration just needs to give him the time that he needs, and and I think we'll get there.
So moving on from Florida, we will be going to the Oklahoma Sooners, which are currently ranked 18th in preseason
Sooner.
polls. I don't think that lasts long. I think they suffer a week 2 loss to number 14 Michigan this year.
Yeah.
I am fully behind that. I think Oklahoma's kind of been a letdown since coming into the SEC. You see Texas being ranked number 1. They kind of came in. I will not say took over. Georgia's still SEC championships reigning. Um, but Oklahoma really hasn't done anything. They had a couple good wins last year, but nothing that just stands off the page.
You
So I
know,
see them dropping out of the top 25 week two.
pretty early. Excuse me, Brent Venables is a great defensive-minded coach, and I think Oklahoma's defense is going to be great. However, I think where Oklahoma is suffering is the offensive side. Um, it's just one of those things where, but again, your defense can't play 40, 50 snaps in the first half and then come around and play another 40, 50 in the second half, and the offensive line, the offensive not do anything for them. So I agree with you. I think Oklahoma's going to struggle a little bit this year. I got them maybe 7-5, 8-4 if they're lucky. I don't think they're going to win as many games as everybody's expecting them to win. Um, and I just don't know if Venables is going to be the coach to get them back to where they want to go.
So moving on from them, we will go to number 19, Texas A&M Aggies. I think they're going to be in the same role. They just haven't seemed to win the big ones. I think the true test for them is week three at number six, Notre Dame. Um,
Hmm.
if they win that, I think they have a pretty good year. If they lose that game, depending on how bad they look, determines their entire season. Because they roll straight out of Notre Dame into Auburn, which realistically has not been good the past few years.
Hmm.
I look for them and Hugh Freeze to start turning it around. A lot of the past years that Hugh Freeze has been head coach there, they just had quarterback play questions. Last year, I think they played four different QBs in the first 5 weeks. In the
Yeah.
SEC, you just can't have that. You have to have consistency at quarterback, which knows the plays, knows the offense, and is able to run it. Um, like your DJ Lagways, like your Carson Beck. Jalen Milrow, I don't think was an outstanding quarterback, but I think he functioned in an offense that was built around him by Nick Saban.
Hmm. Mike Elko, I think he's going to be a good head coach, and I think that if he can get Texas A&M turned around, it'll be great for him. But 210 passing yards average last year for Texas A&M. It's tied 87th in the country. 195 rushing yards, 25th. I mean, that's not bad. You're running the ball, which is
Right.
good. You know, um, you're averaging 30 points a game, and then you're giving up about 25 points a game. I think with them, it's the quarterback play. They
Absolutely.
need to get the quarterback squared away. I agree with you. You cannot play four quarterbacks. I mean, we saw Spurrier do it in the '90s. With two quarterbacks. But I think that the way the offenses have changed, you just can't do that anymore. You got to have your man. You got to have your captain of the
Absolutely.
ship. And if you can't name your captain of the ship, or if you can't get your captain of the ship squared away, then you're going to have issues offensively. Because it's all about continuity and flow, and and everybody knows quarterbacks and receivers, they've got to be on the same page, and if they're not, then you're going to have issues. So yeah, Mike Elko's got some work to do at Texas A&M still. I do know that he may be he might be considered on the hot seat, but again, Texas A&M is one of those places too. Like
I think
again,
if you go 8-4, 9-3,
he'll be fine.
you're
Yeah,
fine.
yeah, and again, patience. How patient are they willing to be with Mike Elko to give him the time that he needs to get Texas A&M squared away?
Speaking on kind of 8-4, 9-3 being safe, it goes into the Ole Miss Rebels, coached by Lane Kiffin. I think the boosters are happy with the job Lane does every year. Every 2 or 3 years they beat Alabama, and that's like the hallmark of their season.
Hmm.
Or last year they beat the brakes off of Georgia at Ole Miss. Um, that keeps his job safe. I
Yes.
don't really think there's a whole lot to jump into with them. It's almost like the rest of the SEC where they just have ranked team after ranked team.
Yeah, and Lane Kiffin, one of the greatest offensive minds in college football to date. I know there was some talk last year about him possibly going to Florida when Billy Napier was on the hot seat. There was some talk about him going to LSU at some point. I don't think Lane Kiffin will leave Ole Miss anytime soon. until Lane Kiffin's ready to leave Ole Miss.
Yeah,
And then
I
from
think he
there,
retires from Ole Miss, to be
yeah, and then
honest.
from there, I don't think he'll go to another SEC school unless the money's just astronomically right for him. I if he leaves college, I honestly see him going back to the NFL at some
Hmm.
point, as an
The,
offensive coordinator or maybe a head coach later on. But I don't I think the success he's had at Ole Miss is going to be is what's going to define him. Now, could be wrong. Obviously, we're not the end all be all when it comes to that. I'm not saying that he wouldn't
Go to
go to
LSU, but
LSU or Alabama or Georgia or something like that, but I just don't see it
I
happening.
think he
And
stays somewhere he feels like
yeah,
he's safe
yeah, and where he's going
in
to be
his job
successful,
security.
right?
Um, Obviously, they're always signing good recruiting classes, always have great quarterback play. Because
Yes,
why would you not want to go there as a QB? You're gonna be a gunslinger.
and you're going to get developed properly. I
Absolutely.
mean,
You you have a pretty good chance of going to the NFL. Unlike some SEC teams that just seem like they can't develop into NFL talent.
right,
Um, my team being one of them. I haven't seen Georgia really develop a QB into a great NFL QB outside of Matthew Stafford.
right.
Um, which obviously he's getting a little bit older now. Stetson Bennett looks real good in preseason, by the way.
Yeah, I saw that the other day where he let him back for a win.
But rolling into next, we're going to go into Josh Heupel's Tennessee Volunteers.
Ooh,
Um, Another team that just cannot get over the hump. Can't seem to find a way to beat Georgia, which they get to play them week 3 this year. Um,
you know,
Kind of feel like they got lucky a few years ago beating Alabama.
uh, I
That was back 2022. They
yeah,
really haven't had a big win since. They seem like they kind of hang around the top 10. About halfway through the season, they'll get into the main course of their schedule.
hmm
Seems like the locker room loses a little touch of reality. They start feeding into that we're better than what we think we are, or we are who people say we are.
hmm
And they tend to lose a game that they honestly
You
shouldn't.
shouldn't lose, right?
Um, I think one of those being this year to Kentucky. I think that's in a good letdown spot after Alabama. Watch them go into Alabama, beat Alabama, and then come out and just play poor against Kentucky.
You know, and Tennessee was 10-3 last year, even with the quarterback issues that they had there toward the end of the season. And I think that in order for Tennessee to be successful, they're going to have to get their quarterback play squared away. Um, I don't know who they've named for their starting quarterback this year. But Josh Heupel's offense is fast paced, and you've got to have, and it all runs around the quarterback.
Hmm.
And if you don't have an athlete back there to do that, then you're going to struggle. And I think Tennessee has not had a traditional Tennessee defense in a while.
No,
I
and
think most of the recruits have been more offensive than it has defensive. And I think his mentality is, well, if I score 58 points, then
I'm gonna hope you don't
I'm
score
gonna hope you, yeah,
59.
59, yeah, and that will get you a couple of games in the SEC, but I think that eventually it's going to come back to bite you.
But
And
you watch them every year when
yeah,
they play your teams: Texas A&M, Alabama, Georgia, Florida.
yeah,
Teams that can slow the pace down and make you play their game.
mm-hmm,
Um, Josh Heupel's offenses tend to not do too good in that.
right,
Um, they struggle at times.
right,
He runs a very fast-paced offense. Of as soon as we get a first down conversion, we're running down the field, getting back on the ball, hoping
mm-hmm,
we catch you in some confusion.
mm-hmm,
We're going to make sure you can't sub,
mm-hmm,
which I think all of college football has done a really good job the past, I guess, half year, 6, 8 months of where they're trying to stop this faking injuries, like you saw last year out of Ole Miss and
right.
teams against Tennessee, where every time a big play went off, one of the big D linemen was
Mm,
on the ground,
yeah, with a cramp,
and
quote
they were
unquote.
back in a play later,
Yeah.
after getting some water and catching a breath. So I think I'm ready to see that landscape of college football change.
Mm-hmm.
But now that we've talked about all these conferences, we're going to take a quick break. And when we get back, we'll roll straight into the top 25 and some betting lines of the year.
Welcome back, everybody, to the game. I'm your host, Terry,
I'm your host, Trey.
and we are going to pick back up with the AP Top 25 of college football, which was released, what, a couple of weeks ago?
A couple weeks ago.
Yeah. So the biggest shock to a lot of people, my understanding was we'll just start with number one and work our way down. Texas being ranked number one over Penn State, Ohio State, Clemson, and Georgia.
I, I think the AP polls miss a huge opportunity here for week one. Could have had number one and number two playing at 12 o'clock, first weekend out.
Yeah,
College game day will be in town at the shoe to cover that game. Be a great thing to turn into. I'm actually a huge Pat McAfee fan, and I'm a big fan of what he does for college game day. I think that was a huge miss by the AP polls. Even coming out preseason, you're going based off what people are going to look like.
right.
I don't really understand how you rank Ohio State under Penn State, considering Penn State has not been able to beat them the past couple years, and Penn State always loses a couple games
Yeah,
in the big games. It makes no sense.
I'll go ahead and tell you these rankings over the last 10 to 15 years just blow my mind sometimes. I agree with you. I mean, Texas is a great football team. Don't get me wrong; they did some great things last year. But
I think the questions of Arch Manning
yeah,
are a huge piece of ranking them number one.
yeah, I don't,
And
I
it's
just don't
almost
see
like to
it.
get the hype
Yep.
over to Arch,
Yeah, and again, not take
which he doesn't want.
right. Yeah,
I recently watched an interview he did, and they say, "What do you feel comes with the name Manning?" And he was like, "A lot of undeserved hype, a lot of undeserved attention. Hopefully, it becomes deserved."
right.
Which goes into just showing his character and all the Manning's character
Yeah.
of
Oh
they
yeah.
don't want hype, they just want to go
No.
play football.
Yeah. You know,
Um, Again, back in the number two Penn State, I don't see them staying there very long.
I don't
And
either.
just closing out the top five with Ohio State should have been number two to me. Um, Clemson coming off kind of a good end of the season last year. I see them being ranked in the top five, but I don't know how they get ranked over Georgia. Even being a fan,
Mm,
I think Georgia's only question of being ranked number five is we don't know what the quarterback play is going to be in Gunnar Stockton after that rough outing against Notre Dame to end the season.
yeah.
Notre Dame's six, just being an independent conference, you know they're always going to be in the top 10 to start the season.
Yeah.
And you always kind of wonder if these AP top 25 preseasons are to hype up week one, week two matchups. You got number seven, Oregon, number eight, Alabama, number nine, LSU, 10, Miami. Um, like I said earlier, think LSU may stay there a little bit, or if not, go up. It just all depends how their week one, week twos go.
Yeah. And then plus when they get into the meat of their schedule, just like everybody else, once you start getting into conference play, it's going to change. Everything's going to change
Um,
weekly.
Number 11, you got Arizona State.
A lot of question
Their
there.
head coach will make you want to run through a brick wall head
Yes, he
first.
will.
Though, number 12, Illinois. They don't stay there long.
I agree.
Um, they just don't have the offense or the defense to keep up in big
Mm-mm.
games.
Last year was a good year from them, but I just don't see them producing the same this year as they did last year.
I don't either. Number 13, South Carolina. Beamer ball is in full
Beamer
effect over
ball.
here. Um, be cheering on the South Carolina Gamecocks. You got number 14, Michigan. I think they have a good rebound year. More obviously has to serve those 2 game suspensions, but I think
Yeah.
they're in basically non-irrelevant games. Um, they'll be all right. I still think they beat Ohio State again this year. That's their 1-0, 0-1 game. You
Hmm.
meet a Michigan fan, they will not talk about Ohio State
Yeah, that's true.
unless it's in a bad name.
Yep.
Number 15, Florida. Can't really say anything bad about that.
Mm-mm.
Co-host over here, being a big Florida fan. November 1st is going to be fun.
It is going to be fun.
Number 16, SMU. Um, Kind of a standout down in the ACC. I think they're going to be good. I could see that also being a dark horse over Georgia Tech.
Yes.
I think the ACC is going to look really good this year outside of Clemson. I've not seen a good enough recruiting class out of Dabo Swinney since the inception of the transfer portal. He's still trying to do it the old school way. And
Yeah,
NIL is just, it's not going to take off down there. The boosters aren't for it. Dabo's not for it. I think you're going to see a decline in Clemson football over the next 5 years as long as Dabo Swinney is there. But he
I
really
agree.
doesn't do anything to get himself fired. The boosters are happy with him going 8-4, 9-3. As long as
Yeah,
he doesn't have 2 or 3 years there where they're struggling to be a plus 500 team, I think he stays.
yeah, I agree. Yeah, and they love Dabo over there in Clemson.
Yeah,
I mean, and don't get me wrong, he's a great coach and he's a great recruiter. But I agree with you. He's going to have to come off of
traditions.
of his tradition and his holdout with the NIL and the transfer portal and stuff like that. So
Because he went out and got DJ in the transfer portal, which was a terrible coaching decision.
yes,
Um, just absurd. Which, well, he didn't get DJ in the transfer portal. He recruited DJ out of
and
high
then he
school.
lost him to the transfer
Yeah,
portal.
it him letting him go was a good deal, but him starting him as a QB over
Was a Yeah,
Dave Klubnik,
yeah,
terrible coaching decision.
I agree.
Um, Next we got number 17 Kansas State. Like we kind of talked about earlier, we'll
Hmm.
see if they can win the big games. 18 Oklahoma, they're not there long. 19 Texas A&M. I think they have a big let up into that week 12 Texas game. Um, Week 12 for playing week 14 just off buys.
Yeah,
I think they have a big let up and a big letdown in that game. We'll see how good Texas stays though, and if
exactly.
Arch can stay healthy. Number 20 Indiana. Signetti is a hell of a coach this past year. Really revitalized that program. Um,
I think they stay in the top 25 this year. I see them 8-4, 9-3, maybe. I just think the bigger games for them is going to be difficult for them to
and
win,
I
especially
think
if they're away.
I
You
think it
know,
takes 2 or 3 good years of him being a coach there to
right?
allow the recruiting classes to
Yep,
come in,
yep,
grow the
yep.
program, and that's when we'll start seeing him win some
And
big
and that's where
games.
that patience comes in again. We talked about earlier.
Number 21 Ole Miss, they're going to stay in the top 25 all year long.
Oh yeah,
Lane's good at pulling out some big ones
yep,
and losing the ones he should not.
yeah.
Number 22 Ohio State, they don't stay there long. We've never really seen good offensive play out of Ohio State. It's always just a defense. If you've watched the Ohio State Ohio game in the past 4 years, you can watch kickoff, take a nap, and wake up with 5 minutes to go in the fourth
Mhm.
quarter, and you watch a hell of a game at that point.
Yeah, and then Iowa is they're having you know they've come a long way over the last couple of years. Iowa State has, but I do think that for them, as long as they finish 8-4, 9-3, then they're happy. Um, I mean, I don't see them competing, for a top 10 spot anytime soon.
No.
So
Next you roll into number 23 Texas Tech. I think they have a lot of upside, not a whole lot of downside. If they go less than 500, no one really cares. If they go 10-2, everyone's going to be a Red Raiders fan.
I think they are going to be a dark horse this year. I think they're going to win a lot more games this year. And I think a lot of people are going to jump on that bandwagon like they do every year when Texas Tech
Absolutely.
is running rampant down there.
When
Um,
Texas Tech is good, America is winning.
yes, yeah,
Um,
100%.
you go number 24 Tennessee. We'll see how they do in their big games.
Yep.
Obviously Alabama being one of them, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
I think they play Florida this year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we'll see how Josh Heupel's offense fares against really good defenses.
Yeah.
Number 25, Boise State. I don't see them staying there long. I think this is a letdown year. Losing Genty, they've lost a lot of starters. I think they're ranked here at 25 based off the hype that finished last year.
Right.
Um, People said they didn't belong in the college football playoffs. I will say they're wrong there. Um, I think next year with them joining a bigger conference, hopefully
Yeah.
that gives some
Pac-12. Yeah.
outstanding football play next year. But I think this year's kind of unwarranted.
I think so with Boise State. I think they will win the Mountain West. again this year, which will be their last year in the Mountain West because
Mhm.
we know that next year, 2026, they go to the Pac-12. I think that's a great addition to the Pac-12. Um, but I do not see them making the college football playoff this year. I just, I think it's going to be somewhat of a rebuild year for them.
So after covering the top 25, prior to logging off, let's just run down the conferences. Obviously, we'll call this the way too early to tell.
Hmm.
I gave my pick for the ACC. Who who wins ACC this year? Well, obviously we've said who's going to be in the conference championship game. Um, just a couple options you got here is Clemson, Miami, SMU. North Carolina may or may not be there, and then you got Georgia Tech.
Hmm.
Who you got ACC?
I'm going to go with Miami, Georgia Tech, Clemson, and then SMU.
Just pick one.
Just one. I'm gonna go with Miami. I'm partial to the state of Florida. You know, it's where I was born. I'm a Florida boy. So I'm gonna say Miami's probably gonna be my best bet for the ACC.
Isn't that like a sin there to be a Florida fan and go for Miami?
Probably, but it is what it is.
So then we'll carry over into the Big 12. Um, I'll go Texas Tech Raiders.
I I'm I agree with you. I'm on bandwagon early with Texas Tech. I think they have a opportunity in front of them this year to do really well in the Big 12. Um, so yeah, Texas Tech.
So carry that over into the Big 10. Um,
Mm.
I'll go Oregon Ducks.
I'm as painful as this is going to be to say. I'm going to go with Ohio State. I think Ohio State wins the Big Ten this year.
Question of the year: does Ohio State beat Michigan?
I think they will, and and the reason I say that is Michigan is fixing to have a ton of distractions, not off the field with everything that's going on. I don't care what any coach says or what any organization says. That is going to affect those players because now they're worried about their future. And if they get some sort of bowl ban,
Which in the 74-page report, they did not ban them from any bowls. And even on appeal, it cannot be strengthened by any means based off appeal and retribution for an appeal.
yeah, I,
Um,
I, I still think there's going to be a lot of distractions with them this year. I still think Michigan's going to have a good season, 8-4, maybe 9-3. I do think they lose to Ohio State. I do think Ohio State wins the Big Ten, and I think Ohio State is probably going to make a run for the
so the
college
only
football
thing
playoff.
that hurts Michigan in the postseason is they do not get in for the next 2 years. They will not get any revenue from going to postseason.
Right.
Um, so the profit sharing, nothing like that. So say Ohio State wins the national championship this year, and the NCAA pays out $10 million to that Big Ten league for making the playoffs
Michigan
per
doesn't get any.
team.
Yeah.
Michigan will not get a dime. They're also required to pay 10% of their football budget, which last year was $70 million. Quick math, that's $7 million to the NCAA.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, Michigan's got the money for their football program, but I don't care what anybody says. You start losing that amount of money,
They're
even if it's for one year, that's going to
So
hurt.
they're projecting over 3 years that Michigan will lose almost $30 million in revenue, and having to spend, especially if say Michigan's able to make the playoffs this year and lose out on $5-7 million, and it all goes to the NCAA.
Hmm.
The only one gaining there is the NCAA. But I think they had to make an example. I am absolutely shocked that the NCAA did not revoke some wins due to that
Hmm.
and revoke a national championship. We saw it happen to USC,
Right.
where a player was selling jerseys and stuff like that, and they revoked the Heisman and wins.
Right.
Um, that's the one year that basically there is no national champion,
Right.
which should have been Auburn's, by the way. Mountain West Conference. I know you said Boise State wins that one. I don't really see anyone sticking out there to win that conference.
Mm-mm.
San Jose State's one of those kind of dark horses over there.
Well, oh, and UNLV with Coach
Mm.
Mullen taking over his first year down there in Las Vegas. Everybody knows his offensive mind. I think UNLV is going to be a great team to watch this year over in the Mountain West. There's going to be a lot of offensive production coming from them with Dan Mullen taking over.
And then obviously the biggest question between me and you is who wins SEC?
Mm, who wins the SEC? I will tell you, I honestly think it's going to come down between. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I'm going to say it. I think it's going to be Georgia and Texas.
Who wins Georgia Texas?
Uh,
Hard to beat a team twice in a year.
I understand that. I agree. I'm gonna say if I was a betting man, which I'm not, I will go with Georgia. So,
So
and it pains me. Now, don't get me wrong. Georgia's a great football team. And the only time I really don't like Georgia's is when we play. When they play Florida.
so
Uh,
I will give a hot take. I'm gonna say Georgia, South Carolina.
you are going with Georgia, South Carolina.
I am. I think
Mm,
I think Beamer breaks through this year
you think so?
and carries over and goes to his first SEC championship game.
Well, well, we will see how that goes. All right, so that's the top 25. And before we close out here, we're going to do a quick recap of week one for the college football games that are starting coming up this week. So, Saturday, August 23rd, we have Iowa State and Kansas State playing in Ireland.
So
Ireland,
Kansas State is actually favored in that game by
are they?
3.5.
You figure they would be.
Obviously, these are just what I choose to pick and who I feel comfortable going with.
Mm-hmm.
I like Kansas State minus 3.5 at minus 102, meaning you put $102 on the game and you win $100.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as you grow through the money, it goes the same way. If you're not comfortable with Kansas State winning by 4, their money line is minus 142. I like Kansas State to win that game, and I think they at least win it by a touchdown. I think Iowa State comes out flat, doesn't have the offense to keep the defense in the game.
Right. And then let's see, we got Idaho State and UNLV. That would be Dan Mullen's first game over there in the uh, Las Vegas. Um, UNLV's going to win that game.
Yeah, so I will not touch that game
Yeah,
um, at all. I'll probably watch it, but I'm more so looking forward to that Fresno State Kansas
Kansas
game.
game. Yeah,
Um,
what you got on
Kansas
that?
Kansas is favored by 12.5 at minus 115. I think Kansas State wins big, at least by 3 touchdowns. Um, over under 50.5.
Hmm.
Um, it's kind of one of those deals. If you're going to take the spread, you almost have to cover the over. With it being 50.5, I don't think Kansas has the ability to shut Fresno State out.
Hmm.
I just think they have the ability to outscore them.
Yeah, I think
Um,
that's probably going to be a lot higher than what people are thinking too, from a score standpoint.
absolutely.
So then we got Sam Houston in Western Kentucky, a Conference USA game right out of the gate.
Yeah, we'll not be touching that game
So
at
yeah,
all.
I know we didn't talk much about the Group of Five conferences this go around. But there's good ball in those conferences. They just get the short end of the stick just because of the Power Five conferences and the teams that the Power Five conferences have. So, but there's no hate for the Group of Five. There's good ball in those conferences. They have good games, and sometimes those teams come up and they give these Power Five conferences hell from time
Hmm.
to time. So we're not knocking on them, but we will get to them at some
I
point.
mean, Colorado last year, first game out was in a barn
Uh,
burner with one of them.
yeah, so we will get to the Group of Five at some point. So
Next, you roll into Stanford, Hawaii.
hmm.
Hawaii's favored in that game by 1.5. If I've learned anything the past 2 years of Hawaii, starting with Vandy, is do not touch Hawaii whatsoever.
Yes.
They will get you, regardless of if you bet against them or bet for them. They will get you. So I will not be touching that game.
So a quick note on Hawaii, they just approved a new stadium
Really?
that they're going to be building down there. Yeah, it's a pretty good chunk of change, but they're moving and they're going to demolish the old stadium and they're going to build a new one down there for Hawaii to play in. I think it's supposed to be up and running within the next 2 or 3 years.
which
So
is kind of crazy based off their results the past few
I
years.
know.
So we don't ever see Hawaii being one of those big figures in football.
Hmm.
Obviously,
I mean, they haven't really been significant since Colt Brennan was down there at
yeah.
quarterback, and then they went undefeated, but then they came up and played Georgia in the Sugar Bowl, and Georgia beat the brakes off of them up here in Atlanta. So
So next we roll into a Stony Brook versus San Diego State. Um, that's August 28th, so that's going to be the next weekend. So we got what, one, two, three, four, five college football games next weekend in 6 days.
yeah, and then
Just enough to scratch the itch a little bit.
yeah, and then the 28th, which is a Thursday, we got Boise State and South Florida.
So I will be all over Boise State in that game, -6.5 at -110. The over under 64.5, I think that's a little high for that game.
Hmm.
I don't think Boise State puts up enough points to cover the over, and I don't think they let South Florida score enough to cover either. So I would go spread there at -6.5.
I got you.
You also have that day on the 28th, you have NC State versus East Carolina.
Hmm. That's an in-state rival.
It is. Um, I'm not going to be touching that game, but the spread is -11.5 at -115 in favor of North Carolina State. If I had to pick a side, I would absolutely go NC State.
Right. You know, week 0 and week 1 are always difficult to look at sometimes because
Yeah, and one thing you kind of learn by looking at these sports books and just sports betting in general is you learn week 0, week 1, and week 2 is not the weeks to just blow through your bankroll.
right.
Um, your bankroll is basically what you choose to bet on football or whatever sport you pick for that year. Maybe you set a budget for the whole year. Week 0 is kind of one of those get in, get out.
Hmm.
Um, Pick one game that you're really confident at. Um, you kind of know the depth chart, you know the roster, you know how they're going to try to come out and play. Other outside of that, that is not the week to be
Hmm.
placing parlays, player props. Um, that's kind of middle of the season type deal where you know what these teams are going to be doing.
Right. And I think the game that Thursday is the 9 o'clock game on ESPN with Nebraska and Cincinnati. Um, that's probably going to be the game of the day
Yeah,
with
so for
them.
that Nebraska Cincinnati game, I'm going to be taking the under 52.5 at -118. Um, I don't see either team putting up a lot of points. I see two really good defenses going against one another and shutting each other's offense down. Possible final score there is maybe 24-17, something
Hmm.
like that.
You know, and for both those teams, that's a defining game, week 1, because of the struggles that they've had over the last couple of
Mhm.
years. You know, you go 0-1 right out of the gate, that could really affect your season in the long run. Let's see. Then we move into Friday. Army's playing Tarleton State, Michigan State's playing Western Michigan. Can
So the big game for that Friday is going to be at 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Sorry, Auburn Baylor.
Well,
Um,
actually, there's two of them because you got Georgia Tech and
you
Colorado as
also
well.
have that one as well.
Yeah.
Um, I will be watching both.
Hmm.
Um,
We'll probably be watching them together.
yeah, in that Auburn Baylor game. I don't trust either team to be willing to put my hard earned money on. Um, Auburn is favored by 2.5.
Yeah.
I could see them coming out, possibly winning that game with a money line at -130. I just think the QB play is going to be questionable for Hugh Freeze this year. Obviously, their defense is going to be great. Um, I think that'll be one of those that I'll have to visit next week and just kind of
Yeah.
look and see which one I'm favoring. I will tell you that I will be placing a large sum of money on the Georgia Tech Colorado game at -3.5 for Georgia Tech. I will be all for Georgia Tech in that game. I think Colorado has a decent year, but I don't see them beating Georgia Tech in the first game out.
Uh,
Georgia Tech has a
yeah.
lot of returning starters. They finished the season on a high note. I
Yeah.
think they're at that phase where they need to just turn around the program. And a great week 1 win against Colorado at Colorado is going to be outstanding for that program and help them moving forward.
Yeah, and I think Georgia Tech has a little bit more momentum coming into this year than Colorado does, based off of how they finished. Again, Colorado's going to have a good year. Coach Prom's going to do some good things out there, but I just think Georgia Tech's probably going to be just a little bit better, and I think that they're going to win that game as well.
Yeah. So for all these bets that I've said today, I will be keeping a tracker for throughout the season. Just so you know if whether or not to listen to me. I kind of feel like I know what I'm talking about when it comes to betting on college football, picking lines. Um, if you would like the lines going into the August 30th week one slate, that will be on our third show. Second show, we'll be covering a little bit of NFL, if I'm understanding correctly.
That's right.
We'll be going over some key conferences in the NFL. Week three's show will post August 30th morning, correct?
Correct.
So we will be going over the big games of that day. We'll post that around 8 o'clock prior to college game day coming on. Our show should typically take about an hour to an hour and a half. Today went a little bit long.
Hmm.
I'm sure tomorrow's NFL slate will kind of take a while just to go over everything. Um, but the purpose of this show is to be about an hour break from work, life, kids.
Yeah.
Just to sit around and talk about sports. Hopefully, as we gain viewers into this show, they enjoy it, they comment. Um, I would like to possibly get this show to where viewers come on and share their beliefs and what they're seeing in college football throughout the year. Um, Possibly what betting lines they like to take. And just expanding it.
Yeah. We're just two guys that love football. You know,
That's it.
I mean, diehard college football fan. Getting back into the NFL, I gave it up a little while. Started getting back into it a couple of years ago. I mean, it's one of those things where it's, you know, we know there's several podcasts out there that talk about this stuff. We're just giving our opinions. We want people to come in and follow us. We want people to, hit us up and let us know, give us other things to talk about. We're gonna probably do what, 3 or 4 shows a week.
Yeah, try to do 3 or 4 shows a week.
Yeah.
Obviously, it depends on work schedules. We'll try to have the Saturday slate posted before college game day comes on. I know we're not expecting to compete with them at all. It's a huge established show by ESPN.
Hmm.
I enjoy watching college game day. I know you do as well.
I do.
Um, you can take a little bit of betting advice off of there too of what they choose to pick. So obviously, I'm not giving out financial advice or anything like that on the show, but I just want to provide some insight of what I think. And as we gain viewers, they share what they think about
Hmm.
games.
Yeah.
Um, that's how the community grows.
Hmm.
I've been in some sports betting communities over the past few years, and I've seen them grow. Um, and the main way they grow is by having a community in it that talks about sports, provides just a break from life right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And everybody needs that little break. Just gives everybody an opportunity to step away for a little bit, and you can, throw us on your headphones, pull us up on the computer, and listen to us while you're out there just doing whatever it is you're doing. And if you got suggestions or if you've got questions, you can reach us on our email address, which is beyond the game podcast 6 at gmail.com. We also have a Facebook page and an Instagram page. I believe we're working on a Twitter page that's going to be up and
Yeah,
running by the end of the week, if not sooner. So feel free to reach out to us via email. Again, that's beyond the game podcast 6 at gmail.com. And then we're on Facebook and we're on Instagram. And then, of course, we have a YouTube channel as well. Um, and we're open to suggestions. I mean, obviously, we're all adults. So, you know, don't be rude. Uh, but if you've got suggestions about the show, if you got something specific you like us to talk about, if you got something specific you want us to touch on, as far as the betting stuff goes, that's more Trey's expertise than mine. You can send him
self-proclaimed expertise.
self-proclaimed expertise.
I could go 0-5 week 0.
Yeah, send us an
That's all
email
part of it.
and ask him about it, and then we'll get to you.
I,
Um,
I do know we're planning on attending a couple sports events this year. Um,
We are.
maybe some Falcons games, they're pretty close.
Yep.
Obviously, we're starting with football because we're in that time of year,
Right.
which to me is like Christmas in August.
Yes, it
But
is.
as we grow, attending some sports events, maybe some NFL, maybe some NBA,
Mm-hmm.
kind of just expanding. My hope is that when we go to these live sports events games, doing a couple live streams over on Twitch,
Mm-hmm.
just to have some more interaction. Um, Obviously, we're going to post if we're going to a game. If you're listening and see us at the game, come say hey.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. We're just getting started. We're going to have some shows that are going to be pre-recorded, and then we are going to go live. And this is something new that we just started, that we came up with, that we would do this. So we're excited about the direction we're heading. We've got a good support group that's helping us out with it. Our production manager's good to go. So we'll get him chiming in every now and then. But overall, we're gonna see how and we're not doing this for monetary reasons. We're doing this just to give information out, and we're hoping that we get feedback from people. We're open to constructive criticism. Um, you know, um, and we're hoping to get these 3 to 4 shows done each week and get through football season. And then depending on how well that goes, we may carry on over into basketball and then baseball, and you know work out from there.
But I think that's a good close out there, and
Yeah.
join us again for the next show.
Yeah, so again, thanks for hanging out with us here on Beyond the Game. If this episode helped you in any way, please subscribe, review, and share with your friends and family, and our social media. Get out there. Again, we're on Facebook, Instagram. Again, our email is beyondthegamepodcast6@gmail.com. Feel free to reach out to us, and we will see you guys next time. Thank you very much.